well, but I know COVID put the brakes on for them for a little while, like
Yeah,
for everybody.
yeah,
Their tours were canceled, their seasons were canceled, and they hadn't set up the Zoom thing yet. But when they did set up the Zoom thing, they're knocking it out of the park.
yeah.
I mean, they started, I think, like at least I subscribed to their channel naturally, and the first few videos that I received were Sherman Irby and the saxophones, and they all were playing. I think they were doing the one part at a time process in some of them,
Yep.
and others the rhythm section was able to record their track. And then I think there's some live playing where
Yeah,
they have the Ethernet ports and everybody's got the technology
yeah,
in order to play. They could be in their studio at home and play in real time and record it and do a concert. And they've
yeah.
started to do things like that and doing outreach camps and lessons with Zoom. So the organization built in a momentum for them. Uh,
And just to
I've
interrupt you
seen,
for just slightly because I just started recording this. I got on my recording late, so that's the Lincoln Center program.
yeah, the Lincoln Center program had such inertia and momentum going into COVID, and they got it together quick.
Yeah,
And Jacob Collier was already doing that stuff long before COVID.
sure,
So,
sure.
and we have a lot of folks really embrace the idea of playing music and exploring this technology. And also, I think people were kind of thinking, okay, we'll do this for a few months
Mm-hmm.
until like we can get together and play again. But that's going to turn out to be close to 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
probably when all things are said and done, if we're fortunate enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that more and more people are those that were resistant or didn't want to dive in, like myself, have started to embrace the idea of teaching on Zoom. I've found ways to be effective as a teacher with my UNC students.
Mm-hmm.
Everything ranging from talking about what it feels like to be in school at COVID, and how they came up here to study with me, or they came up there to study with Julia Dollison when she was there, or at the very least to play in two or three ensembles
Mm-hmm.
and to be around kids and to be out of home, be out of the parents' watchful eye and to like have that first grown up experience of kind of being on your own
Mm-hmm.
and playing music, and none of it's there. So sometimes the lessons have involved, of course, I can't tell them what to do. And I also tell them like I'm not a licensed therapist, I'm a jazz trumpet teacher. I said, but you have to remember that as a if you're looking at like music and playing trumpet being part of your business or your only business or one of your many careers or just to accent your career or if you're looking at music to being like your oasis where you go do some other career that you care about and music is a pure thing that you and only you like really control those where it's going to go and you don't want to rely on it for a business. I tell them all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Said so you have to ask yourself because a lot of them are saying, well, I don't know, it sounds like we're not going to be back in the fall and I don't thinking about taking a year off. And I said, I can't tell you, but if you look at it like a business decision, it might be more clear to you. Do you want to spend, $20,000 to sit in your room in Colorado Springs on Zoom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or do you want to like work, save a little money, get a lot, get some sort of break, get a break from that environment and maybe take a couple I for a couple students I said you don't have to quit entirely.
yeah,
So you could knock out while you're doing a part-time job and practicing, getting your playing and writing and singing where you want it.
right.
Uh, then you can knock off some of those like classes, general classes, and community college, ASIM, and then you're only on Zoom 2-3 hours a day maximum, 3 days a week, and you're not spending all that big college money. Because
Exactly.
I have some students that are paying to be there, and
Mm-hmm.
they're definitely not getting the experience they signed up for or paid for.
Yeah,
So, and it's through no fault of the university, but that's why I tell the students, I said, you really need to talk with your parents and you need to talk with maybe some of your trusted friends and students and maybe talk with your professors, especially because you don't want to let anybody down. But we can't say. We might be doing this for another year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah, it's
What
true.
if?
It's true. It's
And
true.
then you put yourself, and I tell the students, I said, then you put yourself in like $40,000 debt to be on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the we did one quarter, the spring of 2020, we did all, it was all online. But then in the fall, we had ensembles again with masks and
uh
distancing.
huh.
And DU's done a great job with all the protocols. They did heavy, 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 heavy research. Everything
I
down,
noticed.
yeah, everything down to, yeah, I know, yeah, right.
I
Uh,
read the thing, and I love how organized it is the form you have to submit and the test you got to administer yourself. It's fantastic.
yeah, and it's gone great because we're in blue level right now, which is the best we've been since well, you can't really count when we were online because no one was here, but we were on orange. We were kind of mimicking. We're mimicking Denver's, Colorado's COVID, COVID scale, right? The alert levels and all that stuff. But they've done an amazing job and kept the cases down to a really small amount. So
And it seems like the student body is respecting those policies
they are.
in
They're
order for it to work.
students that they've been amazing, man. I mean, I don't I don't know. They're just, I think music students in general are just, they're good people, They know how to
They
listen,
are.
and
They really are.
yeah, they just have good intentions, good hearts, and I see them day after day, and they do what they need to do, and they just keep bringing it. So
I wonder if part of that is a natural, comfortable, a level of familiarity and comfortability with the technology that we're asking them to use versus people from our generation
yeah.
that has either learned it step by step as those things came out,
Hmm.
or had to learn it later in life as opposed to growing up with it.
Right, right. That's
I I th- I
definitely,
think that's helping their generation. The fact that their relationship to the phone and the computer and everything online is
yeah,
already part of who they are.
without a doubt,
For,
without a doubt.
for me, it's so far removed for who I am that I
Yeah,
actually kind of I actually have to check out. I could be on the phone doing two or three Zooms, and then I'm a basket case. I got to go watch some good old fashioned TV
yeah, yeah. I
and,
hear you.
and
I
and
know.
play some and play the trumpet,
Yeah,
and that'll usually bring me back.
it's true. It's true. It does. It takes a there's a mental toll. Yeah, and I think it's probably, I think it's true for even the young kids, but they don't maybe show it as much, but I think anytime we're detached like this and we don't, we're not in person, it takes a toll. So
It does. I'm just having a flashback to like 38, 39, 40 years ago of you showing me my first 251 that had some cool notes.
so a little flat nine in there, and yeah,
There
yeah,
was if I'm not mistaken, it later became called the lick for players of our generation, but
yeah,
ba da ba da da da,
yeah,
dee ba ba da 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 da, over
yeah.
C minor F7 B flat concert. And I remember playing that lick no matter what 2/5 it was, I would just play that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
wonder why it didn't sound good.
yeah. That's
Oh,
great.
man,
That's great.
pretty
Yeah.
fond memories.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Gosh, yeah. Yeah, we're working on a couple of tunes. We're working on Woody Shaw, The Moon Train. We're having an improv contest uh, for all the jazz people here, and so we picked The Moon Train and Monk's Well You Needn't, and so we've been really heavy doing that for the last 2.5 weeks.
with the student body or just in the
Yeah.
big band or
No,
like,
just all students in private students, and then in rhythm section class every week we're doing those tunes.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Oh,
been
it's so great you're having a rhythm section class
oh,
just to say that. Yeah.
it's amazing.
Well,
Yeah, it's necessary.
yeah, I can't imagine. Paul Romaine's done some very interesting things to make it possible to play with and simulate playing with his students using a couple different programs. I don't want to say the wrong program, so I'm going to just leave it
Yeah.
out for now.
Okay.
But he said it took there was a learning curve involved, and
Yeah.
then in order to learn it and then to learn how to explain it to students and be able to tell them what they need, how to acquire what they need affordably,
Yeah.
and then to they've got to where he said he got to where he was playing in real time with John Gunther. No video, just audio, but
Mm-hmm.
there was no delay, and it's all over an internet server that so it's real time. It's just like it doesn't have the dropouts because I don't know how they arranged that, but there
Yeah.
was no dropouts and it required a landline.
Of course. Oh,
So
a landline or an Ethernet or a landline.
Ethernet, yeah,
Ethernet.
Ethernet. That's what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
meant.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And was that Jam Kazam or
it might have been, or there's another one, Sound Trap or something. Or no,
soundtrack?
that's a pre-recorded thing. Jam Kazam is one. There's another one I heard, but nonetheless, Paul found a way to, as well as other teachers and students, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
he
yeah,
said as he said, if they're not playing with us, they're not getting what we have to offer them.
yeah.
And because where we got it was from people that we saw them play,
Uh-huh.
we
Yeah,
played with them,
exactly.
I was also thinking back on a funny note, not to change the subject, but when you mentioned that you just said to Joe Pass and you were feeling really confident,
Mhm.
and you said to him, "God, you want to play a tune?" That I wanted to write. I wrote a letter to Bobby Shue when I was like last semester of eighth grade or something. I was going into high school, and I hadn't yet learned anything about 2-5-1's chord changes. I knew the one blues scale, and I could read really well, and I could play high notes.
Mhm.
And so, like, I sounded like I was better than I was. I actually had no clue what the hell I was doing, you know. But
Mhm.
I wrote Bobby Shue a letter, and one of the first things in the letter was, "Thank you for the autographing the album." He autographed an album, and
Yeah,
my
yeah.
dad my dad picked it up, and so and then I said, with all sincerity, I said, "I think you are almost as good as Wynton Marsalis." And then went on to say why I like Wynton and why I like him and John Faddis
Yeah, yeah.
and those, and John Faddis was just like maybe 23 or 24 and was Dizzy's protege at
Yeah.
that time, and Wynton was 18 or 19 and he had just done his first record
Mhm.
for Columbia. Like, or no, not even. He hadn't even done that. He just did his first couple albums with Art Blakey.
Yeah.
So Bobby wrote back. He said, in regards to Wynton Marsalis, he's a fine young talent, and I'm really excited to see what somebody like him can do for the music. Very like, eloquent and heart, honest and
Yeah.
classy. And
Yeah.
then he said, I'm also happy to be an inspiration for your pursuit in playing music. Along with that came a stack of papers that was about 2 inches thick, typewritten essays, drawings of concepts for how to approach airstreams, trumpet exercises, history on who to listen to, what to listen for, how to approach different kinds of mouthpieces. He basically gave me the trumpet Bible,
Wow.
and that. And with that came like 20 tapes. One was like all the Clifford Brown practice tapes, and then a bunch of Blue Mitchell with Harold Land, all bootlegs. And this is like like the only tape people had was Cherokee, Clifford practicing Cherokee. And that was hard to come by itself, but this was all of them. And it came with a note saying, "These are very rare. I trust you. I sent them to you so you can learn and listen and enjoy. This is not a tool to barter with or sell,
Yeah.
said this is for your ears." because like he heard, I sent him a tape of my terrible playing, and he heard something in that and
Yeah.
sent me the necessary things to give me a chance. You know,
And
It was
boy, do
what
you
a
ever.
great thing to do for a young kid.
Oh, it's just invaluable. I mean, that what did you do? I mean, you must have just I mean, obviously you dug into all that stuff heavy.
I did. I went all the way in there.
Yeah, you went deep
I
in
went
and
all the way.
yeah.
I s-
And
at that point I started practicing from when I got those papers, and I was taking lessons with a classical trumpet teacher in the Denver Symphony, Manny Arugio, and also playing with, well, we were both playing with brass beat,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
John Gunther, and learning every Saturday, trying to read music for 2 hours, and then eventually 4 hours,
Mhm.
because play with the young band, play first trumpet in that, and then play like fifth trumpet in the big kid band.
That's it.
And that was like invaluable experience where like you don't get to practice your part. You have to focus right now, right here, right now.
That's it.
And
That's
I think that's
it.
an experience that I didn't realize at the time, but I'm really grateful for that. CCJA is kind of that's the conduit
Mhm.
towards that.
Mhm.
And a lot of those kids can read, but a lot of them are. I'm amazed at the harmonic level of some of the students going in their freshman year of college.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's
But at
some
the same time, you see who they're studying with every week. You know, you and Gunther and Paul and um, so many great Jeff, all kinds of just wonderful teachers. So
wonderful teachers too. You know, at least I did. I look back and I feel like I had some really wonderful teachers, and oftentimes it wasn't about the notes and the scale. In fact, more often than not, it was about stop playing all those notes. Just swing and play some melody and don't play too long.
exactly, man,
You know,
exactly.
I remember somebody was a Bruno Carr. No, Harold Land said, or either Harold, I mean, Homer Brown or Billy Toll said, you don't need all that dog and pony show stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Accused me of being a dog and pony show.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they were right.
He got mad at me when I was playing with him for comping too busy. He wanted jump, 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 jump.
That's it.
You know, that's what he wanted.
Do do that, you get paid.
There, but there's a reason. It's he was a great mentor. Um, but yeah, wow, that Bobby Shoe story. Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, he would periodically like send me bootleg tapes as he got them.
Yeah.
And he would usually get them. I think his source was, I believe, Jamie Aebersold
Mm-hmm.
or some colleagues at the camps. Because
Mm-hmm.
nowadays it's like we take it for granted, the bootleg material. I mean, can you imagine how I think back and think, okay, if I was in high school and I could pick up this little tiny device and I could watch Freddie Hubbard play on 150 different videos, I would have been all over that. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I was all over it when YouTube came out. I
Mm-hmm.
used to, I mean, for 3, 4 years, hardly ever slept because I was on YouTube all night looking for uh, Woody Shaw, Booker Little, Clifford Brown, Freddie Hubbard, looking for all the players I admired and
Mm-hmm.
trying to find stuff, live footage to see how they played. Louis Armstrong, some of his television appearances, and later in life, you could actually see how he played,
Mm-hmm.
and Roy Eldridge, like so. And we didn't have that.
It's true.
If you didn't see the players live, you probably weren't going to see their techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with that came the an observation I had the first few years teaching at Miami. Actually, was my students would come in and say, have you checked out Clifford Brown, Max Roach live at Basin Street? And I said, oh yeah, that's the classic recording. Every cut is amazing. Like, oh yeah, check this out. And they put it on, and the ad they let the ad play until they could skip the ad, and then they fast forward to like 3 minutes 53 seconds to their favorite part of the solo, or sometimes the entire trumpet solo. And I'd say, man, we have an hour and 20 minutes in this lesson. This is a 5 minute song. Play the whole song. So part of what my teaching was at the time was to get these guys, they come in. I said, we're not going to play for the first 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to make you squirm in your seat, and we're going to listen to an entire song. And we're not going to talk.
Wow.
We're not going to
Wow.
play. So turn the light off. And there we go, And they would
That's
be like, oh my God, they'd be tripping.
yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. They yes. Yeah, that's man, that's a conversation for a whole other video on that, man.
Well,
Jeez.
I think the technology and the context is where the person is coming in. So like a young player, they want to get as much material together as fast as they can, and they want to know about everybody else that's doing it historically and from their generation and their teachers. They're just like sponges. So it was coming from the place of like completely loving the music. But I
Mhm.
remember like I used to feel like we were kind of not doing one. I wasn't doing my due diligence in listening when I would only listen to one side of a record.
Mhm.
But I would bring two or three records in, and John Gunther would bring two or three, and I think we might have done a couple listening hangs like that. And I
Mhm.
used to trade records with Scott Wenholt
Mhm. Yep.
and record them on cassette tape and that whole thing. And I would
Oh yeah.
listen to them. That if I was going to listen to heavy metal bebop, Brecker Brothers, I had to listen to the whole record. I listened to one side and I was like, oh, there's so much more.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And like, and the arc of an album.
Right, right. And that's something something that's lost on most of these students. Yeah.
Well, I know some of our colleagues that are in their mid to late 20s and early 30s, say like Annie Booth and Patrick McDevitt and Alejandro
Mhm.
Castano and Gabe Mervine, Daryl Gott,
Sure.
Taylor, like I
Oh
mean
yeah, those guys are
Tom
different. Sure.
Amand.
Of
I
course.
mean, and what they're actually playing entire albums as their concerts, which I went, that is so cool. I hadn't thought about that, but
Yeah.
what a great idea. The
Oh yeah.
first set, you're going to play hub tones.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second set, you're going to play something else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The and it, thank God vinyl has made a comeback, you know, and they're producing, they're putting out records, both in the jazz world and the pop world, have been for I don't know what 3, 4, 5 years now.
I think longer than that. I was out in Los Angeles. I want to say like like maybe I don't know 10, 12 years ago to do
Yeah.
Roy Hargrove recording,
Uh huh.
and a bunch of us went to the Hollywood, the record store down by Hollywood and Vine, I think it was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and went in there, and they had used vinyl, and they
Hmm.
had CDs, of course.
Hmm.
But I looked up and I saw this has to be maybe a little later, like maybe 20. It has been like 5, 6 years, four, three. Anyway, I
Yeah.
looked up and I saw Adam O'Farrell record, and Adam was one of my students at the time at Manhattan School of Music, and I saw an Adam O'Farrell on vinyl, and I thought I was tripping. I was like, "Is there an Adam O'Farrell?" Because I know his dad's Arturo and his grandpa was Chico, but
Uh huh.
maybe there's Uncle Adam or something.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Sure.
was
Sure.
totally him.
Yeah. That's so cool.
What a neat player, a neat guy he is, man. Just like
Yeah.
I heard him play with his dad's band with
Yeah.
his grandpa directing, and he was about 14 or 15, and they were featuring him, and it was mind blowing.
Wow. That's Adam.
Adam O'Farrell, Adam, yeah.
Adam O'Farrell. Yeah.
He's a
Yeah, I
real deal,
remember
bro.
when I first, did you know Steve Bagby at Miami?
I very in passing. Not I didn't know much about him,
We
and I'm
got to
trying to think.
play we got to play and hang a lot, and he gave me, when I moved to New York, he gave me a bunch of names. Chico O'Farrell was one of them back in, that was like late 80s.
Wow, and
Yeah.
Chico was highly active then.
Yeah, yeah, but I never got to play with him, or hang with him. But yeah, Steve was, he was great. He was great. But yeah, I wanted to talk to you about the um, the New York scene. So what about some like other? So besides, any other things that are happening or were happening during COVID?
I moved back to Denver in 2015, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I sort of Ryan Kaiser came back with the Lincoln Center Band starting in 2018,
Okay.
and I did a 2-week tour in 2018, subbing for Kenny Rampton and Mike Rodriguez sub for Winton, with that band, and Chick Corea was the guest artist every night.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
that's the last time I like played with the New York Cats,
Okay.
with that band. And Maria's band did a recording on Labor Day 2019, and
Right.
that came out in July, and we played a gig in February,
Yeah.
2020. So I stay in touch with a few people that were working a lot in this what limited studio scene is there, but particularly the Broadway scene,
Yeah.
and they're really hurting right now. There's just they have no idea when it's going to come back. And if you excuse me, I have to plug in so my
No
angle
problem.
of
Yeah.
may have to walk around for a second here.
Well, it looks like you're actually
Stand by.
hovering over that. Is that the Earth? Looks like
I
it's
think
got to be
so.
the Earth. That's
Yeah,
I'm trying to
I'm
see if
social.
it's. Oh, I see.
tr-
I see. That's Scandinavia, I think, up there. Yeah.
I think so. Let's see. My apologies for this. I hate to do that, but
No, no sweat. I'll edit it out, man.
oh great.
I'll fix it in the mix.
Fix it in the mix. I think you got a good take of that one. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of removed from the New York scene, not in any other way than just having been gone so long. As you know how fast things change there.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, when you're there and you have some good accounts that are reliable, that could be
Hmm.
subbing on a 2, 3 different Broadway shows, and like a wedding band with really great musicians and a
Yeah.
really well written book.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those I played in New York that were so much fun. Like the horn section would be like Gary Simoleon and Walt Weiskopf and Dick Oates,
Yeah.
Scott Wenholt, me, Tony Cadlick,
Yeah.
Jim Pugh, and Dave Taylor. And
Yeah.
that would be the horns on a wedding gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
I know, man. I
and
remember. I remember.
it was a rush to play these stupid gigs with these incredible musicians,
Oh,
you know?
I'd have a ball. I'd play wedding gigs, and Snitzer would be on it.
Oh yeah.
Chris Bodie, before
Chris Bodie.
before he was a big name. He'd. Well, but Snitzer would be on the road with the Rolling Stones, and then I'd see him on a wedding gig.
And
So
Mike Davis would be on those all the time, the trombonist, and Tim Reese started doing those too.
right, right,
And David Mann,
yeah,
all these
uh huh,
great like crossover players, like just wow.
yeah, yeah,
I remember doing jingles and showing up for jingles in New York as a last minute sub for like Soloff usually, or for Bob Milliken or Tony Cadlick.
uh huh,
I'd get called to go in at the last minute, and
yeah.
Randy Brecker would be sitting there playing third trumpet on a jingle, and just be like, "Whoa, this is a trip!" And you're playing like a Wendy's commercial. I mean, I remember there was one. there was the Super Bowl. I think it was '93 or '94 that San Diego played San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I remember the brass section for all the music for that Super Bowl they did in New York, and the trumpets were this guy Jeff Kivett, whom you probably know, trumpet
Yeah, I
player
know the
from
yeah,
New York.
I didn't know him well, but yeah.
But he did a lot of production and stuff for Vanessa Williams, and
Yeah.
very hooked up in the jingles and movies, and like just really, really great studio, like pristine. I mean, pristine studio player, just incredible.
Yeah.
And he was on it. Tony Cadlick, myself, and Randy Brecker were the trumpets, and the trombones were Mike Davis
Mike,
playing
yeah.
lead, Birch Johnson. I want to say Herb Besson and Keith O'Quinn. I think I
Okay, okay.
just, but I mean, just like, and then the French horns were like it was basically and a few jazz guys, and go in there and record these 30-second bumpers for Super Bowl music, and then sit around and listen to these like the veterans talk about uh different gigs that they did, like, oh, you remember that James Taylor session, or you remember that set James Brown and stuff like that, just
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
fly on the wall stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Eh,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was
so
just losing you with the my connection was funny for a sec. Um, yeah, man, totally. It's that's where, now the kids need to be, they're going to be getting there too. There are the students who we're teaching,
they will.
learning
I have sort of
on
a
the
dream
job.
band, and I have a dream band that I'd love to find a way to just start here, and it's sort of it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I noticed sort of got the idea from the Dizzy Gillespie United Nations Orchestra,
Okay.
which had Dizzy being the elder statesman at the time, was in his probably in 1986, he was probably in his mid 60s, I want to say.
Hmm.
He died, I think, at 82 or something in the 1993, was it? No, so he might have been in his mid 70s. And Moody was in his 60s.
Hmm.
Jimmy Heath was in his 60s in that band. But
Hmm.
then they had Daniela Perez and David Sanchez,
Hmm.
and they were teenagers, you know. And they had people. He had percussionists from Muslim nations, from South American nations. He had Jewish musicians, and they had people from like all walks of, other than the music, the commonality of music. They were from such different backgrounds, and he called the band the United Nations Orchestra.
So cool.
So damn cool. And with that as sort of a role model, I would love to, in our community here in Denver, have a big band with some already written charts, maybe some originals, like not try to make it that epic, but to make the focus of the band having some elder statesmen, whether he or she is writing or playing in the band, like somebody in their 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, and a couple of whiz kids.
Hmm.
And I want it to be diverse in generation, in ethnic makeup, in language makeup. I'm really asking a lot. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I want it to look, as I told Brenda, I said I want my band to look like a health insurance poster.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
you
that's
know,
right. That'd be great, man.
like
Well, you
like
gotta
to
do
be
it.
so inclusive,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
that where we focus on playing the music, so that I learned so much from being around Jimmy Heath, and from being around James Moody and Frank West and Slide Hampton, who's still with us, but he's not really, there's nothing to do. But Benny Golson is still around, you know.
Yep.
Uh, but the players that I got to hang with and play with, I learned so much. And one of the things I learned is that they said it wasn't. He said certain things have changed over the decades. One of the things Frank West said, he said there's been really only two things that he experienced in his life that seemingly came out of nowhere. One was the atom bomb, that was like, what?
Mhm.
And the other one was how bebop just appeared out of swing music. He said that
Interesting.
bebop came on, and there was a certain small group of people that did it, and
Yeah.
they got it, and it was ferocious and amazing.
Yeah.
But Frank West was just 4 or 5 years older than the bebop generation.
Right.
So he went from Count Basie's band into World War II, and he came back from World War II, and he said everybody was playing bebop, and he said, "Oh, I don't know what the hell this is." I said, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then he learned about it, and then as quickly as it came, it left.
Yep.
And, like true bebop. And he
Abs-
also said that the
Absolutely.
players hated calling it bebop, that they all the players that were playing it called it progressive improvised music. They bebop was a marketing term and they didn't particularly care for it, but Dizzy decided to run with it
Yeah.
and he made it like a show.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's hey, he was brilliant to do so. Because
So
don't you think if he hadn't done that, right? If Dizzy had done it, it wouldn't have gotten to the to more people.
and something else Dizzy did that was so huge, and it was because I'm sure it's because he loved music and loved people. And every time he would go to a new region and play, he wanted to meet the local musicians and learn about the indigenous music of the place that they were playing, and he would share jazz with them.
Hmm.
His whole career, he did that. When he went to the Caribbean, he would adapt Con Alma, he would adapt Night in Tunisia and Manteca.
Yep.
He would adapt particularly Manteca in Night in Tunisia. He would rewrite for every country he'd be in. They would
No
be
kidding.
the Baltic states, he'd have a Brazilian samba.
Yeah.
He'd have like everywhere he went that he would incorporate that into his whole thing. He really Dizzy Gillespie to me is the creator of world music.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he actually to me he's the pioneer of world music.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
You
I
know,
can't think of anyone else. I mean, you know, in from that era, I mean, who else? You know, I mean, in the '70s, Paul Simon in the pop world, you know,
okay, I can
and
see that
in the '80s,
absolutely.
Graceland, you know, all that. But yeah, Dizzy, totally. I never thought about it that way.
No, I
World
got to
music,
hang
man.
out with him one day all day, and I mean from like I want to say from like 10 a.m. until about midnight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can't you could write a
that's
book on that?
I that'll have to be another time when we're just playing a gig and hanging out. But
No, no,
it's
yeah,
it, and it truly it was when the Littleton Town Hall by the Alamo Bank and by Arapahoe
yeah,
Community
yeah. Of
College
course,
down on
of course.
Main Street. You
Yeah,
remember that little
of
place?
course. Yeah,
It had closed down at some point when we were in high school, and I don't know why, but they decided to renovate it.
yeah.
And the first artist to play at the newly renovated town hall in Littleton was Dizzy Gillespie and his quartet.
And that was when.
That was 1986. You had already gone to Miami by then.
Yes, I was in Miami. That's right. Yeah.
And it was March of 1986, so you would have been down there. I
Oh,
had a week I had a week off from Buddy Rich's band and I came home. I happened to meet his manager through Bobby Shue on a previous Buddy tour.
yeah.
And actually I met him when I was at Berkeley. Bobby Shue introduced me to Dizzy's Northeast manager. Back in the days, they didn't have one manager managing the whole thing. They had regional managers.
Oh, yeah.
So he was handling all the big acts for the Northeast, New England, everything north of New York, basically.
Uh-huh.
And they called him the Whale. So the Whale said, "Do you like Dizzy Gillespie?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Littleton, Colorado." He says, "Oh, Dizzy's playing there in 10 days." I said, "Well, I'm going to be home." He said, "Oh, you want to go?" He said, "I'll hook you up." So this guy called Dizzy, and Dizzy invited me to his suite. And we hung out from 10 a.m. until he went to his gig, and then played the gig, and then went back and hung out afterwards. It was amazing.
I can't.
But that's a story for another time.
But
But
yeah,
just
I mean,
because so many details.
I bet you wish you were older when you hung out with him, right?
I was so starstruck. I had a whole list of questions that I left at home because I knew I was going to be tongue tight, starstruck, and I forgot the questions.
Yeah,
But among the things we did was we did core exercises where you lift up your upper body and your legs just barely off the ground and you hold and you just doing deep trumpet breathing and doing that stuff to get
yeah,
the abdominal muscles in play for trumpet playing.
yeah,
So we were laying on the floor doing that, watching NBA basketball and Final Four, college Final Four,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, I'll tell you the rest of that another time because it's like
Oh, it's deep,
you
I'm sure.
it's hard to believe, but Dizzy's nickname was Dizzy because somehow funny but messed up but funny stuff happened around him and to him and around, and he wasn't, and it was never malicious or vandalistic, but stuff would just happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and in the case of our hang in his room, he had a big suite,
yeah.
and we were hanging out in one room doing doing the core stuff and watching basketball. And about 2 3 hours later, hotel security knocks on the door, and he was washing a plate in the kitchen of this suite. Set it down to open the door, but didn't turn the water off. So we actually flooded the entire suite of this hotel room. And Dizzy felt really bad, and and when the two guys came up, there was two workers. They didn't speak English. I think they're from Mexico. They came up and they recognized Dizzy, and they went because they recognized him.
Right.
So Dizzy gave them the key to the minibar, and Dizzy Gillespie and I did the water vacuuming. He said, "It's not right to ask another man to clean up our mess, no matter how much they're getting paid. This is our mess."
There you go, man. There you
So
go.
he was a
Wow,
great guy.
wow. Oh, that's so great to hear about your heroes, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is when you find out they're like really awesome people.
Oh, well, man, I'm gonna have to. I gotta run, and I think I mean we'll do another one, man. We'll do another one.
I miss hanging with you. This has been so nice, Mike. Thank you.
Oh,
This
it's
is really very uplifting.
no, the it's uplifting for me. It's fantastic, and what was I gonna ask you? Something about I just on a side note, I was on Instagram and I saw Winton. I follow Winton's Instagram account, and he put a thing on, and you were playing right next to him. Uh, it
Oh
was
wow.
it was a it was a tune. It was an original. It was at Lincoln Center, I think. It was original by oh, what's the great, not Dick Oates, and I can't think of which saxophone player wrote it, but he was Winton was soloing. You were yeah, turning the page, and you were just cracking up. You were cracking
Oh,
up about
it's
it.
ridiculous to sit next to him. And I had to tell him because he saw me laughing one time in rehearsal. He's like, "I'm doing the best I can." I said, "No," I said, "I'm laughing because I'm so happy right
Yeah,
now." I said, "This is
yeah,
incredible. Don't stop."
yeah.
And guys in the band would say, like, "Come on, keep it together, man. Look straight ahead, and keep your composure." And my attitude was like, "God, you guys, you've been here for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You've forgotten how fun this is. You
Yeah.
guys need to step out of it. This is fun."
Yeah, yeah.
And no, I'm not
Right.
changing a thing.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.